On the day of my husband's funeral, the director called me. "You need to see this." I was folding towels when the first crack appeared. Blue towels, soft ones from Target, the ones my daughter Jessica bought me for Mother's Day 3 years ago. I remember thinking the fabric softener smelled different, like almonds. I didn't like it, but I kept folding. That's what I do. I keep folding. I keep going. I keep pretending the small, strange things are nothing. The coffee maker beeped. 5:30 in the morning, same as every morning for 47 years. Even after Frank died. Even after the house got too big. My hands still woke up before my eyes. I poured the coffee black. No sugar anymore. Doctor said my blood work was getting sloppy. I sat at the kitchen table by the window. The bird feeder was empty. I made a note to fill it later. That was my life. Notes, small tasks, the long, quiet list of things that kept me from thinking too hard. My phone buzzed. A text from my son Mark. He never texts that early. He's a lawyer, big firm in the city, takes cases he doesn't believe in for money he doesn't need. I love him, I do, but somewhere along the way he stopped being the boy who built Legos on the living room floor. Now he's all starched shirts and phone calls where he says, "I'll handle it, Mom, don't worry." His text said, "Call me when you're up." Nothing else. No good morning, no how are you, just call me. I didn't call right away. I finished my coffee. I stared at the empty bird feeder. I thought about Frank. He died 9 months ago. Heart attack in the garage. I found him with a tire iron in his hand. He was trying to fix the lawnmower. That's the kind of man he was. Always fixing things that weren't really broken. The funeral was small. Too small. Half the people we knew were already dead or in Florida. Jessica cried into my shoulder. Mark shook hands with strangers. I stood by the grave and felt nothing. Then I felt everything. Then nothing again. I called Mark back at 6:15. He answered on the first ring. That was strange too. He never answers on the first ring. He likes to let it sit. He thinks it makes him look busy. "Mom, where are you right now?" he said. "I'm at home, in the kitchen. Why?" He paused. I could hear him breathing. That heavy breathing people do when they're practicing what to say next. "I need you to come to the office today, around 10. There's something we have to go over." "What something?" "Just some paperwork, from Dad's estate. It's easier to explain in person." My stomach turned, not because of what he said, because of how he said it. Flat, rehearsed, like he'd been sitting on these words for weeks. I said, "Okay." He said 10 o'clock. Then he hung up. No love you. No see you soon. Just gone. I sat at the table for another hour. I watched the sun come up over the neighbor's roof. The Wilsons, young couple with 2 kids. They wave at me when they take out the trash. The wife brought me casserole after Frank died. Tuna. I hate tuna. But I ate it anyway, because that's what you do. You eat the tuna, you wave at the neighbors, you keep folding the towels. I got dressed in my good slacks, the black ones that still fit from before my knees got bad. I put on a little lipstick. Not for Mark. For me. Because my mother always said a woman should never face the world without her face on. She was born in 1932. She didn't know any better. Neither did I. The drive to Mark's office took 40 minutes. I took the back roads. Past the high school where Frank and I went to prom. Past the diner where we had our first fight about money. Past the park where Jessica scraped her knee on the monkey bars and I held her while she screamed. Every corner of this town had a memory. I used to think that was beautiful. Now it just feels like a trap. His office was in a glass building off the highway. Shiny, cold. The kind of place where the receptionist doesn't look up from her computer. I took the elevator to the 4th floor. The carpet was gray. The walls were gray. Everything was gray except the plants. Fake plants. No dirt, no roots. Just plastic leaves pretending to be alive. Mark met me at the door. He was wearing a navy suit. A new one. I could tell by the crease in the sleeve. He hugged me, but his body was stiff, like hugging a mannequin. He led me to his office and closed the door. There was a woman inside. Mid-40s. Dark hair. Serious eyes. She wore a black dress with no jewelry, no wedding ring. She stood up when I walked in. "Mom, this is Diane. She's a paralegal at the firm." I shook her hand. Her grip was firm, too firm, like she was trying to tell me something without words. We all sat down, Mark behind his big desk, Diane to his left, me in the chair that was too low. I had to look up at both of them. I hated that chair. Mom, I'm going to be direct with you because I think you deserve that. Go ahead. Dad had some things in motion before he passed that you don't know about. Legal things, financial things. I didn't say anything. I just looked at him. He looked at Diane. Diane opened a folder, thick, yellow, the kind of folder that means bad news. Your husband, Frank, established a separate trust fund approximately 18 months before his death. The trust was not in your name. It was not in the name of the marital estate. It was set up as an irrevocable trust for the benefit of a third party. I heard the words, but they didn't land. They floated in the air like dust. I turned to Mark. What is she saying? He leaned forward. His lawyer face was gone. For a second, he looked like my little boy, the one who cried when his goldfish died, the one who asked me to kiss his scraped knees. Mom, Dad had another woman. For years, maybe since before we were born. The trust was for her, and for her children. The room didn't spin. That's not what happens. The room stays perfectly still. You stay perfectly still. Everything goes quiet. Not peaceful quiet. The quiet of a stopped heart. I looked at Diane. She looked at her folder. I looked at Mark. He looked at his hands. I said, how many years? He said, we don't know exactly, but we found records going back almost 30 years. 30 years. I did the math in my head. 30 years ago, Jessica was 10. Mark was 14. I was still young, still pretty, still waking up next to Frank every morning thinking we were the lucky ones. 30 years of lies. 30 years of holidays and birthdays and Sunday dinners with another woman living inside my marriage like a ghost I couldn't see. I asked if the children were his. Mark said yes. 2 of them, a boy and a girl, both older than my kids, both born while Frank and I were already married, both raised in a house 20 minutes from ours. I drove past that neighborhood every Tuesday on my way to bingo. Every Tuesday, for 25 years. I waved at the mailboxes. I smiled at the trees. I never knew one of those houses held my husband's other life. I asked Mark how he found out. He said Frank told him, 6 months before he died. Called him into this very office, sat him down, said the words, just like that. No apology, no explanation that made sense. Just, here's the situation. I need you to handle it when I'm gone. I asked if Jessica knew. Mark said no. He wanted to tell her himself, but I told him not to. I said it should come from me or from Dad, and then Dad died, and I couldn't do it. So she doesn't know. Not yet. I sat there for a long time. Diane asked if I wanted water. I said no. Mark asked if I was okay. I didn't answer. Because what does okay mean? Does okay mean my heart is still beating? Yes. Does okay mean I haven't screamed loud enough to break the windows? Yes. Does okay mean I can feel anything other than this cold, heavy nothing? No. Then Diane opened the folder again. She said there was more. I almost laughed. More? Of course there was more. There's always more. The trust Frank set up wasn't just for the other woman and her children. It was for their grandchildren too. And here's the part that made my blood stop. He funded it with money from our joint savings, money we put away for retirement, money we saved for the lake house we talked about buying, money I thought was sitting in an account with both our names on it. He moved it without telling me. He signed my name on documents I never saw. He did it legally, carefully, the way he did everything, with patience, with precision, with the quiet cruelty of a man who had been lying to me for 3 decades and got very good at it. Mark said we can fight it, we can take them to court, but it's going to be ugly and expensive, and there's no guarantee. I asked what was left. Mark looked at Diane. Diane said the house was in my name. Frank put it in my name only 10 years ago, said he was doing it for tax purposes, said he wanted to protect me. I believed him. I was so stupid, so blind, so desperate to believe that my husband of almost 50 years was a good man. The retirement accounts were drained. The investment portfolio was gone. The life insurance policy Frank had through his work named the other woman as the beneficiary. Not me. Not his wife of 47 years. The woman he kept hidden. The woman he built a second life with, while I raised his children and cooked his meals and held his hand in the hospital when his father died. I stood up. My knees cracked. I'm 72 years old. My body makes sounds I don't recognize. Mark stood up too. He said, "Mom, please sit down." I said no. I said I need air. I said I need to go home. He said he would drive me. I said no. I said I can drive myself. I said I've been driving myself for 72 years. I don't need a man to drive me anywhere. I walked out of that glass building and got in my car and sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there with my hands on the wheel, looking at the gray sky through the dirty windshield. A truck pulled up next to me. A man got out. He looked at me. I looked at him. He went inside. I stayed in my car. That's the moment I understood something terrible. The woman I thought I was, the wife I thought I'd been, the marriage I thought I'd built, none of it was real. It was all a story Frank told me, so I would stay quiet and loyal and keep folding his towels. I drove home the long way, past the church where we got married. June 1976. I wore a white dress with lace sleeves. My mother cried. Frank's mother cried. Everyone said we were beautiful. Everyone said we would last. I parked outside the church and stared at the doors. I could still see us walking out. Rice in my hair, Frank's arm around my waist, the photographer yelling, "Smile." I smiled. I meant it. I went home and walked through every room. The living room with the floral couch, the dining room with the china cabinet, the kitchen with the blue towels, the bedroom with the king-size bed I now sleep alone in. I opened Frank's closet. I hadn't touched his clothes since he died. His suit still hung there. His shoes still lined the floor. I pulled a shirt off the hanger, blue plaid, his favorite. I held it to my face. It still smelled like him, cedar and coffee, and the faint, sweet smell of his skin. I hated that smell. I loved that smell. I wanted to burn it. I wanted to bathe in it. That night I called Jessica, not to tell her, just to hear her voice. She answered on the 4th ring. She sounded tired. She always sounds tired now. 2 kids under 5, a husband who travels for work, a house that's falling apart. She asked how I was. I said fine. She asked if I ate dinner. I said yes. I didn't. She asked if I wanted to see the kids this weekend. I said yes. I always say yes, even when my knees hurt, even when I don't have the energy, because they are all I have left. Or so I thought. The next few weeks were a blur of phone calls and meetings and papers I couldn't understand. Mark hired a lawyer for me, a woman named Patricia. Old, sharp, the kind of lawyer who doesn't smile when she shakes your hand. She looked at the documents. She looked at me. She said we have a case, but it's going to take time. I said I don't have time. I'm 72. She said that's not what she meant. I knew what she meant. She meant the courts move slow. Slower than old bones. Slower than grief. Slower than the truth that had been hiding in plain sight for 30 years. I went to Frank's grave for the first time since the funeral. The grass had grown over. The headstone was simple. His name, his dates, beloved husband and father. I stood there looking at those words. Beloved husband. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to spit. I wanted to dig him up and ask him why. Why the lies? Why the other woman? Why the children? Why the money? Why didn't he just leave me if he wanted someone else? Why did he stay? Why did he make me think we were happy when we were never anything but a performance. I didn't do any of that. I just stood there until my back hurt. Then I went home and made a pot of soup. Chicken noodle. The recipe from my grandmother. I ate a bowl at the kitchen table. The bird feeder was still empty. I didn't fill it. I let the birds find somewhere else to eat. Let someone else take care of them. I was done taking care of things that weren't mine. 3 months later, the other woman died. Her name was Carol. I learned that from the obituary. Carol Ann Morrison, survived by her children Michael and Sarah, and her grandchildren. No mention of Frank. No mention of their 30-year affair. Just a clean little obituary that made her look like a widow instead of what she really was, the woman who helped my husband steal my life. I thought about going to the funeral, sitting in the back, watching her children cry, watching her grandchildren hold each other. I wanted to stand up and say, "Excuse me, but your mother was a thief. She stole my husband. She stole my money. She stole the future I thought I was building with a man who belonged to me first." I didn't go. Because what would it change? What would it fix? She was dead. Frank was dead. I was the only one left to carry the weight of what they did. Patricia called me a week later. She said Carol's children were willing to settle. They didn't want a long court battle. They didn't want their mother's name dragged through the newspapers. They offered to return half of what Frank had taken. Half. Not all. Half. Patricia said we could push for more, but it would take years and cost more than we would get. I told her to take the deal, not because I was generous, because I was tired, because I didn't want to spend whatever years I had left sitting in a courtroom, listening to strangers talk about my husband's affair like it was a business transaction. The money came 3 weeks later, a check for $140,000. It felt like nothing. It felt like everything. It felt like the price tag on 30 years of betrayal. Too high, too low. Just enough to remind me of what I lost every time I looked at my bank statement. I called Mark to tell him the settlement went through. He said good. Then he said he had something to tell me. Something about Jessica. I said what? He said Jessica knew. About the affair. About the other woman. About everything. She knew for almost 2 years before Frank died. He told her. Asked her to keep it secret. And she did. She kept his secret. She sat across from me at Christmas dinner and held my hand and looked into my eyes and never said a word. I asked Mark how he found out. He said Frank told him that too. In the same conversation. The one where he laid out all his sins like a man checking items off a list. I told Jessica. She knows. She's handling it. Those were his words. She's handling it. Like I was a problem to be managed. Like my whole life was just a situation to be handled. I hung up the phone. I sat on the floral couch. I looked at the china cabinet. I thought about all the Thanksgivings, all the Easters, all the birthday dinners where Jessica sat across from me and smiled and talked about her kids and never once said, "Mom, there's something you need to know." She watched me kiss Frank Tabate. She watched me hold his hand at the doctor's office. She watched me plan our 50th anniversary party, and she said nothing. I drove to Jessica's house the next day. She lived 30 minutes away, in a development with a pool and a clubhouse and sidewalks that all looked the same. I parked in her driveway. I sat in my car. I watched her through the kitchen window. She was making lunch for the kids. Peanut butter sandwiches, cut into triangles because that's how they like them. She looked normal. She looked like my daughter. The same daughter who used to crawl into my bed after a nightmare. The same daughter who cried when I dropped her off at college. The same daughter who cried me after her first miscarriage and said, "Mom, I need you." I knocked on the door. She opened it, smiling. She said, "Mom, what a surprise." She hugged me. I let her. I walked into her kitchen. The kids were at the table. My grandson, Leo. My granddaughter, Maya. They said, "Hi, Grandma." I said, "Hi, babies." I sat down. Jessica asked if I wanted coffee. I said no. She asked if something was wrong. I said yes. I looked at her. She looked at me. The room went quiet. Even the kids stopped chewing. I said, "Frank told you about the other woman, about the money, about all of it. And you never told me. You let me live in your house. You let me hold your children. You let me love you. And all that time you knew my husband was cheating on me and you just kept it to yourself. Jessica didn't deny it. She didn't make excuses. She just stood there by the sink with her hand over her mouth. Then she started to cry. Not pretty crying, ugly crying, the kind where your face falls apart and snot runs down your lip. She said he asked her not to tell. He said he was going to fix it. He said he was going to leave Carol and make things right. He said telling me would just hurt me for no reason, because he was going to end it anyway. She believed him, because he was her father, because she loved him, because she wanted to believe he wasn't a monster, even though he was. I asked how long she waited. How long did she give him to fix it? She said 2 years. 2 years of watching him come to family dinners and kiss my cheek and say, "I love you, sweetheart." 2 years of watching him pretend to be a good husband while he was funneling my money to another woman. 2 years of her own secret, her own lie, her own betrayal. I stood up. My knees cracked. Leo asked if I was leaving. I said, "Yes, baby, Grandma has to go." Maya asked if I would come back. I said, "I don't know, baby. I don't know." Jessica grabbed my arm. She said, "Mom, please." I said, Don't touch me. Don't call me that. You gave up the right to call me that when you chose him over me." I walked out. I got in my car. I drove home. I didn't cry. I haven't cried yet. Not at the funeral. Not at the lawyer's office. Not at Frank's grave. Not at my daughter's kitchen table. I think my tears dried up somewhere in the 30 years my husband was lying to me. I think my body knew before my mind did. I think I've been mourning this marriage for decades without even knowing it. That was 8 months ago. I still live in the house. I still sleep in the king-size bed. I still have the blue towels from Target. But I don't fold them anymore. I just leave them in the basket. Let them wrinkle. What does it matter? Nothing matters the way I thought it did. Jessica calls every Sunday. I let it go to voicemail. She leaves messages. She says she's sorry. She says she was scared. She says she loves me. She says the kids miss me. I listen to her voice and I feel nothing. Then I feel everything. Then I delete the messages. Mark comes by once a month. He brings groceries. He checks the smoke detectors. He asks if I need anything. I say no. He sits on the floral couch and watches football on my TV. Sometimes we talk. Mostly we don't. He carries the weight too. He knew about the affair, but he didn't keep it secret. He told me the truth when he could have buried it. That counts for something. I don't know what, but something. The other woman's children sent me a letter last month, handwritten, on nice paper. They said they were sorry for the pain their mother caused me. They said they didn't know about Frank until after she died. They said they were ashamed. They said they hoped I could forgive them, even if I couldn't forgive her. I wrote back. I said, "I don't blame you. You didn't ask to be born into someone else's lie. None of us did." I still think about Frank every day, not with love, not with hate, with something worse, curiosity. I want to know what he was thinking. I want to know how he looked at me across the dinner table all those years and said, "I love you," without choking on the words. I want to know if he ever felt guilty. I want to know if he ever looked at our wedding picture and felt anything but relief that he got away with it for so long. I'll never know. He took those answers to the grave, the same way he took my money, my trust, my belief that love means something, that marriage means something, that being a good wife and a good mother and a good woman will protect you from the worst kind of betrayal. It won't. Nothing will. The people you love the most are the ones who can hurt you the deepest because they know exactly where to cut. Tonight I'm sitting in the kitchen. The coffee is cold. The bird feeder is empty. The phone is silent. I'm wearing Frank's blue plaid shirt. I don't know why. Maybe because I miss him. Maybe because I hate him. Maybe because there's no one left to see me wear it and wonder why an old woman is holding on to a dead man's clothes. The sun is going down. The house is dark except the light over the sink. I'm not going to turn on any other lights. I'm just going to sit here in the half dark and wait for tomorrow.
That's what you do when you're 72 and your husband is dead and your daughter is a stranger and your money is half gone and your heart is full of holes. You sit in the dark. You wait. You keep breathing. You keep folding the towels even when they're already wrinkled. I hear a car outside. Headlights sweep across the kitchen wall. The car stops. The engine cuts off. A door opens. Then another door. Then small feet running up the front steps. A knock. A small voice. "Grandma, it's me, Leo. I brought you a picture I drew. Mom said you were sad. I want to make you not sad anymore." I don't get up right away. I sit in the dark for one more breath, then another. Then I push myself out of the chair. My knees crack. My back aches. My eyes are dry. I walk to the front door. I turn the knob. The porch light is off. I can barely see his face, but I can see the paper in his hand. A drawing. Bright colors. A house. A sun. 2 stick figures. One big, one small. I look past him. Jessica is standing by the car. She's crying. She's always crying now. I look at Leo. He holds up the picture. He says, "Do you like it, Grandma?" I say, "Yes, baby. I like it very much." He asks if he can come in. I look at Jessica again. She's waiting. She's hoping. She's my daughter. I step aside. I hold the door open. Leo runs past me into the living room. He jumps on the floral couch. He turns on the TV. He makes himself at home. That's what family does. That's what family is. Even when they break you.
Even when they lie, even when they keep secrets that destroy your entire life, you still hold the door open. Because what else is there? What else is left when you've already lost everything, except the people who took it from you? Jessica walks up the porch steps, slow. She stops in front of me. She says, "Mom, I'm so sorry." I say, "I know." She says, "Can I come in?" I say, "The door is open." She walks past me. She smells like her father's cologne. She always has. I never noticed before. I notice now. I notice everything now. It's the curse of being old and alone and knowing the truth. You see things you spent your whole life looking away from. I close the door. I walk to the kitchen. I pour 2 cups of coffee. One for me, one for Jessica. I put them on the table. I sit down. She sits across from me. Leo is watching cartoons in the other room. The house feels different now. Less empty, less quiet, less mine. I don't know if I can forgive her. I don't know if I can forgive Frank. I don't know if forgiveness is even the point. Maybe the point is just to keep going, to keep holding the door open, to keep pouring the coffee, even when it's cold, to keep loving people who hurt you, because the alternative is a loneliness so complete it would swallow you whole. Jessica reaches across the table. She puts her hand on mine. Her hand is warm. It's the same hand I held when she was born, the same hand I held when she walked into kindergarten, the same hand I held when she walked down the aisle. I don't pull away. I don't squeeze back. I just let it sit there. Warm, human, broken. Leo runs into the kitchen. He says, "Grandma, look, it's SpongeBob." I say, "I see, baby." He says, "Aren't you going to watch with me?" I say, "In a minute." He runs back to the living room. The cartoons are loud. The coffee is cold. The bird feeder is still empty. Jessica is still crying. I'm not. Maybe I will later. Maybe when she leaves. Maybe when I'm alone in the king-size bed with the smell of Frank's cologne on my pillow. Maybe then the tears will come. Or maybe they won't. Maybe I've cried all the tears I have left. Maybe the rest is just this. Just sitting at the kitchen table with my daughter's hand on mine and a cartoon playing in the other room. and the ghost of my husband's betrayal hovering over everything, like smoke you can't see, but you can't stop breathing. I take a sip of coffee. It's bitter. I don't add sugar. I don't add anything. I just drink it black and bitter and let it burn my throat on the way down. That's what love tastes like at the end. Not sweet, not warm, just bitter, just hot, just something you swallow because you have to. Leo calls me again. Grandma, come watch. I stand up. My knees crack. Jessica lets go of my hand. I walk to the living room. I sit on the floral couch next to my grandson. He leans against me. His head fits right under my arm, the way his mother's used to, the way her father's never did. I look at the TV, but I don't see it. I see Frank's face. I see the funeral. I see the lawyer's office. I see Jessica's kitchen. I see the check for $140,000. I see the empty bird feeder. I see the blue towels crumpled in the basket. I see everything. I see nothing. I am 72 years old, and I am tired in ways that have nothing to do with sleep. The cartoon ends. A commercial comes on. Leo falls asleep against my arm. Jessica comes in with a blanket. She covers him. She covers me. She sits on the floor by my feet. She rests her head on my knee, just like she did when she was little. Just like she did before she learned how to keep secrets. Just like she did when she still belonged to me. I don't know what happens next. Maybe we find a way back to each other. Maybe we don't. Maybe the money comes back. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe I die in this house with this couch and these towels and this daughter who broke my heart. Maybe I live another 20 years and find a new kind of life. I don't know. I don't need to know. All I need to do right now is sit here on this couch with this sleeping boy and this broken girl and let the night come down around us like a curtain. The porch light is still off. The bird feeder is still empty. The coffee is still cold. And somewhere in the dark between this house and the grave where Frank lies, Carol's children are sitting in their own kitchen, wondering if I will ever forgive them. The answer is, I don't know. The answer is, forgiveness isn't a light switch.
It's a slow leak. It takes years. It takes decades. It takes longer than I have left. But I'm still here. I'm still breathing. I'm still holding the door open. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's all any of us can do. Just keep holding the door open for the people who hurt us. Not because they deserve it, but because the alternative is a locked door and an empty house and a silence so loud it stops your heart. Leo stirs. He says, "Grandma." I say, "Shh, baby, go back to sleep." He does. Jessica's breathing slows. She's asleep on my knee. I sit in the dark living room with my family, and I think about Frank. I think about Carol. I think about the 30 years I didn't know. I think about the 2 years Jessica did. I think about the check. I think about the blue towels. I think about the bird feeder. Tomorrow I will fill the bird feeder. I will fold the towels. I will answer Jessica's call. I will keep going. Not because I'm strong, not because I've forgiven anyone, but because the sun will come up, and the birds will be hungry, and the towels won't fold themselves, and because somewhere in this broken, hollow chest of mine, there is still a woman who believes in small things, in coffee, in cartoons, in a child's drawing of a house and a sun, and 2 stick figures holding hands. That woman is a fool. That woman is a survivor. That woman is me, and I'm still here, and the door is still open, and that will have to be enough.